Hi, thanks for watching this webinar on CRMs in the rain gutter industry. This is the second in our series of webinars surrounding the golden triangle of business: system, processes, and people. In my experience, most entrepreneurs are really successful at one of these three aspects of running a business. Maybe they're great at hiring people, so they're great at the people part of it. Or maybe they're really good at, say, installation, so they might be really effective at processes. Or they might be like me and they're really effective at systems. Things like software, certain ways of doing things, etc. The Golden Triangle webinar series is here to kind of build out your skill set so you have a more robust set of knowledge to work from as you run your own gutter business. Today's topic is going to focus on systems, or CRMs. We're going to cover what CRMs are, popular CRMs in our industry, a short demo of Housecall Pro, and then I'll give you a preview of a Rain Gutter Association membership towards the end of this webinar. Please note that I did have this webinar last Friday with a rep from Housecall Pro. I forgot to hit the record button on that, so unfortunately I'm not going to have that demo here at the end. However, if you would like an exclusive discount to Housecall Pro, I would encourage you to become a member of the Rain Gutter Association. You can receive half off your first 2 months of Housecall Pro with a membership. Otherwise, you can visit housecallpro.com to kind of see more about their tool. All right, so first off, let's cover why people have CRMs in the first place. If the following scenario sounds familiar, you have a problem. Imagine it's an everyday day in the office. Your office lady gets a phone call from a customer, and that customer has a question about when their job is going to be completed. So your secretary ends up running around the office trying to find the paperwork to indicate kind of when this job is going to be completed, or a certain note, maybe what color of gutter is going to be installed. She kind of sort of finds it after 20 minutes, or she gets a note maybe from the sales rep or the project manager, and she relays that information back to the customer and then hangs up, kind of relieved that it's no longer her problem to deal with. Well, that whole process took quite a bit of time. In the process, that customer was just left on the phone kind of wondering what's going on. The company's not seeming very professional. So it kind of begs the question, how does that customer feel? Not great about doing business with your company. So to help solve that problem, decades ago, Salesforce kind of pioneered customer relationship management software. These softwares enable you to store customer and prospect contact information, identify sales opportunities, record service issues, manage marketing campaigns all in one location, and more importantly, it makes that information available to everybody at your company. The big thing here is that as the years have gone by, these CRMs have become more and more robust and also more specialized for different industries. So there are CRMs that cater to lawyers, there are CRMs that cater to large financial institutions, and there are CRMs that kind of are tailor-made for people in the home services industry, like the gutter world. And the company I came from, All Gutter Systems, uses Salesforce, which is probably not one I'd recommend for most people watching this webinar. But here's kind of a preview of the dashboard that they use. And this gives everybody at the company a really clear idea on what the numbers look like versus our target goals. They compare reps, different numbers, kind of let everybody see what's on the board for production for a given week. So this enables everybody at the company to be on the same page and help us know where we need to move the needle to progress optimally. On a micro level, every single lead here has its own kind of page where everything lives. So this one isn't quite complete. You can kind of see this was moved to DNQ stage. We'll talk more about deal stages later. But typically you'd see things like, hey, you'd see a copy of the estimate here, a copy of the lead, additional notes from production or the salesperson. And in some more robust CRM setups, you might even have recordings of calls, text logs, all that stuff. So if a sales guy steps out or he's sick or something like that, someone else can step in here and see all the correspondence between the customer and our company. So we know exactly what's going on here. And there's no room for misinterpretation from anybody. In a really good system, you might even have your installers using a CRM. So your installers might take photos around the house that'd be connected to this account. And that way, even if you've never been in the home, you can see what it looks like and where gutters were put up or certain parts of the job or maybe things didn't go right. So you can kind of think of a CRM as essentially the brain of the operation. You might have sales guys be the mouthpiece, the installers are the hands. Well, your CRM needs to be the brain. So that's how you can kind of think of CRMs, and that gives you an idea of what they can do. Let's talk about some mistakes I see people making when selecting CRMs, because this is a critical component of running a gutter company or any company. So if you fuck it up, you're in for a bad time. So let's talk about what not to do, and then we'll go into some mistakes I see when people use CRMs. So first off, when you're selecting a CRM, it needs to be the first thing you do. The first mistake you can make is buying a CRM after you've selected other softwares to use. That's because a CRM, being the brains of your organization, is the core software that ties everything together in your company. You're going to have all sorts of CRMs, or all sorts of software rather, as you build out your gutter company. You're going to have sales enablement software, presentation tools. You might have drawing tools like CAD programs. You might have web design tools that you use, right? But those should all be selected after you pick your CRM, because depending on the scope of your CRM package and what's included there, these other softwares might be redundant or they might not play nicely with the CRM. Integrations, the ability for software to kind of work together seamlessly, are critical when selecting software packages. And nothing's more critical than when you're doing that and selecting a CRM, because what you don't want to do, for instance, is have to create estimates in a CRM and then also create estimates in a different software. So if you're using something like Sumo Quote, for instance, and you select a CRM that doesn't integrate with that, then you might have to create estimates twice before you're able to kind of move everything through the process or your pipeline before you do the install. Or you don't want a CRM that doesn't talk to QuickBooks, right? Everybody uses QuickBooks, so you need a CRM that works directly with that or whatever your QuickBooks equivalent is. So plan your core software first, and then pick the other software. That's the number one mistake I see gutter companies make, is they start off, they just do installations, right? They have all this other software around, and when they need to expand, then they select a CRM. Don't make that mistake. You're starting a gutter company, pick a CRM first, plan for growth, and then make the rest of the moves. The other mistake I see contractors make here is they think they need a custom solution when they're looking at CRMs. They think, the 3 solutions I looked at don't really work for my specific situation, so I just need to build one myself or hire somebody to build one for me. That's a noob mistake. Don't make that mistake, guys. Your business is not going to be that special, I promise you. These CRM companies, especially the larger ones, work with tens of thousands of companies. They've seen it all. They know better than you do what works and what doesn't. So when you're selecting a CRM, trust me, just buy one, pay the monthly subscription, don't worry about it. The last thing you want to do is have to build and maintain a custom software that you put together, because it's going to run you much more than just paying somebody to use their CRM. The other mistake I see companies make, and I've seen a company I work very closely make this mistake, is they buy too much of a CRM. So when I say too much of a CRM, there are CRMs that are built for huge, massive, billion-dollar companies. Then there are CRMs that are built for really small contractors, like owner-operator operations. You want ones that go on the smaller end of that spectrum. The reason for that is these CRMs, these smaller ones, are going to be built to funnel you through a certain process, from a lead coming in to the install being complete, that just works. You don't want to purchase something that you need to customize or build out to kind of hijink it into your operation. So some examples of that set you down the right path here. Some examples of CRMs that just do too much. Number 1 would be Salesforce. 2 might be Improve It 360. 3 would be HubSpot. 4 might be Service Titan. Now, 2 and 4 on this list, Improve It 360 and Service Titan, these are probably softwares that if your company grows to multiple locations, or you start offering multiple services besides just, gutter stuff, you might grow into these, right? So these are good softwares, but they are much too complicated for your average gutter company to use, and they're going to take up too much time. Just pick something simple. We'll go over some really good CRMs for smaller companies here towards the end of the presentation that might work for you. So again, these are all tools that have a lot of flexibility baked into them, but you don't necessarily need that at the start. You need something simple that works for your company. All right, so those are mistakes you might make when you're selecting a CRM. Here's some mistakes I see companies make when they're using their CRMs. So the number one mistake I see companies make is they don't enforce CRM use or they don't hold employees accountable to it. You need to convey the message that using a CRM is not optional to your employees. It's their job. Their job is working through the CRM, making notes, going through the process defined by the CRM, and going through all those steps. If they're not willing to do that, they're not the right people for the job. So, connecting to the second point here, the next mistake I see companies make is they don't maintain what are called sales pipelines, or they don't set standards with how these pipelines are kind of navigated. You might not know what a sales pipeline is, so let me explain what that is for you. You can also think of these as like a sales funnel, and a pipeline kind of refers to the flow of customers or contacts through your sales funnel, and they have different stages associated with that. So the funnel starts out big with all the opportunities you have coming in, then it gets real small with the ones you collect on, that you actually get paid on. So first stage would be typically an opportunity, right? We had an inquiry about getting gutters on a house, for instance. 2 would be a lead. So now the opportunity has been qualified. Maybe somebody went out to the house and said, okay, we can actually put gutters up on here. They walk them through a sales presentation. That's a lead, right? We know that that person can buy. 3 would be estimate out. So now we've quoted this house, and now we're waiting for a response. Actually, I guess that would be number 4. Okay to go would be, okay, we have the permission to kind of move ahead with this project. They've agreed to the terms. We installed it. And then 6 would be collected. So you might have like different deal stages at your own company. In fact, this might be like too simple. There might be another need for 2 or 3 more stages here. But this is just to give you an idea of what a sales pipeline looks like. What I see a lot when I step into a new organization, and I've done this a couple times, I haven't seen this pipeline be maintained at any of them. So what you'll often see is you have a really kind of obese pipeline at the beginning stages where you have leads that are a couple years old or several months old even, and those leads shouldn't be sitting in the pipeline anymore. They should be sitting somewhere else. And then the only and the same thing goes with lead and estimate out, right? So you have this big front end that's just bloated with leads that are really old, and then you have this back end where it's been actively maintained. So I don't see enough maintenance on this front end, and then I see a lot of maintenance on the back end. And that skews your reporting because you're going to use this pipeline to build out metrics to kind of determine where you're at. And that also affects your ability to make decisions. So I'm going to touch on that in a bit more detail here soon. So all this stuff needs to be maintained and enforced, and somebody has to own that. And in most cases, that's going to be your sales manager or production manager, depending on the size of your organization. If you don't have either one of those, if you're the head of your gutter company, you need to own maintaining this and deciding kind of when we need to move things along in the pipeline. All right. So symptoms of a mismanaged CRM would be a cluttered sales pipeline. I just talked about that, so I don't need to go into more detail. That leads to unreliable reporting. So I don't know what my cost is per lead or what my close loss ratio is per sales rep. This all leads to gut level decision making, where instead of making decisions based off data, I'm making decisions based on how I feel. Like, oh, okay, the weather was really good, so that's why we had such a great month last month. Or this guy just crushed it, right? Well, in reality, those might be just really surface level analysis. So you need to be able to dive a bit deeper, but you can only do that if things are moving smoothly through the pipeline and you can track everything. You know, if you're not doing that, you're not going to make informed decisions, and that can be a huge mistake and lead to just your business stalling out at some point. The last thing is unused critical features. So if you buy too much of a CRM, there's going to be a lot of features you're paying for that you're not using. But if you're not enforcing CRM use, even on the smaller ones, you're going to see a lot of people in your organization not use important features in the CRM. So for example, a lot of CRMs in our industry enable people to make phone calls through the CRM. That's important because if they're making that phone call through the CRM, that phone call is going to be recorded. If they're texting somebody through the CRM, now that text is part of that person's account. So I can see all the correspondence between the customer and the company, and that's all logged for anybody to look at. But if you don't enforce CRM use, they're just going to text people through their phone, and you don't have any records of that. So the rep might say something, or the customer might say something, and now nobody knows what's going on. You can't have that. All right. So those are some common mistakes. Another one I see is no reporting. If you have a CRM, there's going to be some reports that you can run weekly or monthly. They'll tell you about where your company is at and where it's going. That's going to include things like forecast or close loss ratios, how much business we installed this week or whatever. Somebody needs to build these reports and then submit them to you if you're the owner of the company on a weekly basis. That just means somebody needs to own it, which is kind of indicated here on the slide. So somebody has to own maintaining the CRM at your organization. That's going to involve setting goals, weekly reporting, updates, making sure that everything is maintained in that pipeline we just talked about, and then training and onboarding new employees on how to use the CRM. Which also means, holding people accountable. If they won't follow your process, I'm sorry, they just don't belong at your company. And that's unfortunately the truth of the matter. This all relates to this point here. The system you build is more important than the people you plug into it. This is a concept that needs to be embraced for a company to thrive. You can have a small gutter company and not embrace this principle. That's fine. But if you want to build a $5 million gutter company or a $10 million company or a $50 million company, you need to embrace this principle of being the architect of a system that you can plug people in and out of at whim. I wrote a newsletter last week about this, about sales management and being an architect of a selling system. Part of that is just focusing on the system itself rather than the people. Think of McDonald's, for example, right? They sell cheeseburgers, but they make billions of dollars every single year. They didn't get there by focusing on just keeping one good chef in the kitchen and then having a really good order taker. They focused on building a system that is plug and play. It works anywhere, and they can turn anybody into a salespeople by putting a headset on, sitting them at an order taking window, and then just asking people certain questions, certain lines, and then they sell billions of dollars of cheeseburgers that way. That's because they focus so much on building an effective system. If you want to build a thriving business, your head needs to be in that same space. So here's some features to look at that are maybe non-standard in a lot of CRMs, but that work really well in the gutter space. First off would be texting. So not all CRMs have the ability to connect to your phone, right, and to be able to do stuff through your phone. But that's super important for a good CRM in today's day and age. You want to be able to make phone calls from your CRM, text people from your CRM, maybe even have some texts and calls be automated so nobody has to be working those consistently. So I'd make sure to ask about that. Next thing would be scheduling. If you can get kind of a project management system baked into your CRM, so you're not using like a whiteboard or corkboard or something for scheduling, that's really important. It helps like your office person be able to answer questions relating to scheduling just by typing in the customer's name. So see if you can get that. Another thing would be location services. So the ability to be able to track where vehicles are, knowing when they're going to show up at a job site, and being able to relay that information to the customer. So for example, let's say I'm a customer, I'm getting gutters on my house tomorrow. There are CRMs out there that will tell me when the installers are on the way. And that just is very professional, very clean. Again, lets people know what to expect. Talked about call recording already. Estimates and invoicing is going to be really important for a CRM. So you want to pick a CRM that enables you to invoice people and estimate from the same tool. If you're using a software outside of a CRM for your estimates, including ones I've been involved with, like ArcSight, suddenly you have to create documents, import them into a CRM, or have some type of bridge between the two. It's just kind of a hassle. Pick something that more or less does it all inside one application. Next thing would be mobile friendly. Whatever CRM you use, if it's going to be used by your salespeople, needs to run on a phone. So make sure the app is in good working order, that it works on the devices you use. Invest in getting good phones for your guys so they can connect to that app continually and seamlessly. CRMs that just work from a desktop computer, full stop, aren't going to work for the industry we're in. Next thing would be online booking. So there are some CRMs that can connect it to your website. So when people type in their information to submit a request for an estimate or whatever, you want that to be funneled directly into your system right away. without needing to like look things up or go into a separate system and then import them in. Is kind of a pain in the ass. So pick a CRM that enables a website to CRM connection. Most of them will have something like that, but some of them just are easier to set up than others. Integrations, pick a CRM that integrates in with other tools you use. If you've planned your software stack out ahead of time, you're going to know that. Follow-up is pretty standard nowadays with CRMs. There's something you can build called sequences. So texting and email sequences that automate certain types of follow-ups. So for example, let's say you get a lead in, but you can't get a hold of the person. Well, you can have a sequence set up where they're getting continual emails every week, or maybe a text every week or something like that, reminding them to call in to set an appointment with you guys, so you don't have your sales guys trying to manage that work. That's pretty important. I'm going to skip dispatching for now. Last thing would be just ease of use. If a CRM is not super easy to use at your organization, and if it's not intuitive, you're going to be chasing or hounding your guys to actually use it, which is not an ideal situation. That might be just a sign you have the wrong people, but it could also be a sign the system is too difficult to work with. So make sure you just pick a CRM that's very friendly, the steps are very defined and simple to follow, so everybody uses the tool effectively. Now you might be wondering if you really need a CRM to get ahead, and maybe this slide should be earlier in the presentation, but it's here at the end. You do need a CRM to kind of get ahead in the gutter game, as you do with any business. Less than 26% of smaller companies use a CRM. So if you have 10 or less employees, you're probably not using a CRM, but 91% of companies with more than 10 employees do use a CRM. So what you can glean from that data is you're going to stay small unless you start building out this system. So if you want to get past that chuck in a truck stage you may be at, if you want to get off a truck and start hiring stuff out, yes, you do need to use a CRM to get to that point realistically. Most popular CRMs in the gutter world, there's 3 ones that I see discussed quite a bit: Jobber, JobNimbus, and Housecall Pro. Jobber is a Canadian company. This is the most popular CRM in the gutter space as of today. Very simple to work with, very clean, very simple, right? You're not going to have a lot of options or flexibility baked into this. They appeal to a lot of people for that reason. I think it appeals to a lot of people in the home services industry. Does most everything I talked about in this presentation. I tried to have a Jobber rep at the webinar I did on Friday that was on the same topic, that I couldn't get somebody from there or JobNimbus. Housecall Pro was kind enough to send somebody out to the webinar and actually go over their tool, and I was very impressed with what I saw. So for that reason, out of these 3 options, I would recommend Housecall Pro. That wraps up this webinar. Thank you for attending. If you find content like this valuable, consider becoming an RGA member. There's lots of reasons to do that. We have certifications and training for new employees. So if you're constantly hiring people to install gutters or sell gutters, you can run them through our certification courses so they can function well their first day on the job without you having to train them on every little thing. We offer discounts to our members on important tools like the CRMs I just described, which you can get access to. And there's even discounts on things like gutter machines that are available through companies like New Tech. We also have tons of sales and marketing collateral available, and the benefits are always expanding as our membership grows. So if you want to be a part of that story and be more professional, if you want to empower yourself, innovate, and just become more and more educated on what it means to run a successful gutter company, I would encourage you, consider becoming a member. If you're not quite there, you can always subscribe to our newsletter. It's totally free, and that content is hard-hitting and written by me to give you more insight into what it takes to run a thriving business. All right. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you later. Hang tight.